They assembled us one day and took us to an area. It was a wooded area, and you showed us these inflatable rubber tanks, guns, trucks, airplanes, anything the Army had, they had it. And they look so real. There's a picture on this, but they didn't look like anything like them. These you could stand 20 feet away from the tank and you wouldn't know whether it was a real tank or not. Well, for instance, we had a Piper Cub plane when we were over in Europe. He came flying over our area when we were eating chow for supper, and he turned his engine off and coasted down. He says, "What do you got for supper?" I hollered, "Come on down and see." So he did. He came down. Well, after he ate his supper, he went to get in his plane, but it was a rubber plane. Somebody switched his plane. Well, he didn't quite get to it. They stopped him before he got to it because he wasn't really allowed to see it. It was so highly classified that if a civilian wandered into the area, got into the area somehow and saw any of this stuff, they were taken out. They were put someplace for the rest of the war. They weren't released. They would just disappear, and that was pretty rough on some people. But that mainly happened in Europe. Before we left England, nobody got into that area to see it because we were the security of this whole outfit, and that was our job to keep everybody in place. They didn't belong in there. They didn't go in there. This originated in England. They discovered this or dreamed all this up. And our orders all came from Chef headquarters. That was General Eisenhower. That's where we got all our orders from. And we were separated from the 293rd Engineer Battalion, and we were given designated a 406 Combat Engineer Battalion. And we were a separate unit. We bivouacked separate, and the camouflage engineers, they would be in a separate area. The signal company, they'd be in a separate area. Everybody was separated. But it was so highly classified, you weren't allowed to talk to them. We didn't have any patches, that is our own patches. We didn't have any of our own. But we had patches of almost every unit that was in the service, because when we went on an operation, well, we'd put on a patch from the 6th Division or the 3rd Division, whatever we were supposed to be, we'd wear the patch. And there was little complications with this because we were in an area to move an armored division. I think we were supposed to move the 10th Armored Division, and we had the 6th Armored Division to help us. Now, we had a bivouac area, and we had to make it look like a lot of people in there. A lot of pup tents were pitched, a lot of little bonfires were built, like an outfit would have. And we had about 6 or 7 Sixth Armored tanks, actual tanks from the division in there, and their crews, of course. And there was one near my post, and the lieutenant in charge of the tank, he says, "You can tell me what's going on. What's going on around here?" I said, "Lieutenant, you were told not to ask any questions, so don't ask." I says, "You're going to be all right." They were scared to death of being with us. Here were tanks that had been in combat, had scars from combat, had been hit a couple times, and they were scared to death. They didn't know what was going on.